let me start with a very interesting concept today, user interface designing. We have already talked about one kind of design. What is that? That is data flow diagrams. And we talked about modular designs. We have talked about a lot of designs, like what are the various categories of designs: architectural design, UI design, data design, modular design. Okay. So what is user interface design? We'll take a look at some types of user interfaces that are available. There are a lot of user interfaces that have been coming up in the recent times. This famous interface. This is a natural language interface because whatever you are going to type here is a free form of language that you are going to type and search. This is called a natural language interface. There are no restrictions on what you are going to type there, right? Form fill-in. I think for our projects we are going to use form fill-ins mostly. The users will be going through several form fields and then they are going to fill in and submit the data. This is one kind of an interface. Virtual reality interface. So now we are getting this VR devices, right, which we can wear and we can have an immersive feeling of the entire system. So we have immersive VR and non-immersive VR. So there are so many different types of VRs, but virtual reality in gaming is also becoming a reality now. So this is another kind of interface that we have. Gesture interface. If you have used Xbox, PlayStation, so you will see this Kinect, right, wherein you can do your gestures and you can control, play some games. So this is also one more interesting interface that's coming up. And I think even now smart TVs are supporting this kind of an interface wherein you can just do a gesture and control your TV screens. Direct manipulation. This is what I like the most. You know, when you're playing games, you just touch the objects, you move the objects and directly you manipulate things. Command language interface. What is command language interface? You open the command prompt, stop running your entire commands, and that's menu-based interface. ATM. That's an interesting example. When you go to ATM, everything is a menu. You just click on the menus, you achieve your end result. So these are some of the interfaces. We have one more interface, voice-based interface. Nowadays, you know, even in cars, if you use Google Assistant or we have Siri, right? So you have everything to be voice-based. I not included that here, but voice-based interface is coming up. It is taking up the market now. So we'll look at some of the advantages and disadvantages of these interface types. Direct manipulation. What is the advantage? It's very fast and intuitive interaction, easy to learn. Users can very well adapt to it by just touching the objects and moving it. That will be very easy for the users to learn, but the difficulty is very hard to implement. This is not an easy interface to implement. Only suitable when there is a visual metaphor for the tasks. So where will you use such interfaces? Mostly in video games, wherein in CAD based systems, wherein you need some visual metaphors which you can move on the screen. Menu selection. What is the advantage of this is avoids users error because everything is a menu. When you go to the ATM, you are provided only with these options. No need for you to enter any kinds of data. Little typing required. Only the amount you are going to enter. Nothing else. What are the disadvantages of this? Slow for experienced users. If you go to the industry, you know, mostly people will not use this mouse. Experienced programmers don't like using a mouse. They'll just go with all keyboard shortcuts and their output will be very fast. So experienced users don't like using a mouse, going there and picking things up. So most general purpose systems use menu selection. Form fill-in, for almost every system that you are seeing there, there's a form fill-in and it's very easy. We get the data in the format that we require from the users. But what are the issues with form fill-in? Users may enter the wrong data in the right fields. So you'll get a lot of issues and they have to re-enter the data. Personal loan processing systems use form fill-in. Command language interface, yeah, it's very powerful and flexible. You can run any type of commands. But you have to be a very good techie to use a command line interface. So it's very hard to learn and poor error management. Where where will you use all these things? Operating systems, command and control systems. Even for databases, you can run all the commands using a command line interface. Natural language, I told you it is accessible to casual users, easily extended. So you can type anything, it's very friendly for the users, but requires more typing. Natural language understanding systems are unreliable. So we cannot come to a place wherein whatever we type will be able to get reliable results. We may get something deviating from the results. So information retrieval systems, Google, as we know, right? How important is user interface? Your user interface should match the skills, experience, and expectations of your users. First, you have to understand who are the users for your system. There may be a user who is a person who is applying for a loan. When you talk about people who are applying for loan, we cannot expect any knowledge or experience with respect to computer-based systems from them. So that is one category. When you talk about loan officer, is a domain expertise, but he may not be an expert in using a computer-based system. When you talk an administrator, he is an expert in computer-based systems. He will be very happy if he gets things done quickly. So when you talk about one particular loan management system, you have different categories of users with different skills, experience, and expectations. So when you are building a system, understanding the user is the important thing. In software engineering, the key to success is understanding the user. If you don't understand the user, success is going to be very difficult. And users often judge a system by its interface rather than its functionality. A poorly designed interface can cause an user to make catastrophic errors. Poor user interface design is the reason why so many software systems are never used. It's not only in software engineering. You talk about automobile sector, anywhere. When you talk about the user interface on the dashboard, sometimes they keep the USB somewhere down, and it's very difficult for the users to even use that USB connector to charge their phones. When your user interface is very bad, no matter how good engine you are going to have inside the car, definitely they are not going to use it up. So product failures happen because of user interfaces. And another good example I will say is the BlackBerry smartphones. I don't know how many of you have used that. Very reliable smartphone, but they were still sticking on to the key typing interface when other players have gone to the touch-based interface, and they were totally out of the market. No matter how much security you provide, how reliable you are, when you don't satisfy the users, this is what is going to happen. So how to satisfy the users? The very important thing is you understand their skills, their experience, and the expectations. When you're designing a user interface, human factors are also there. One is limited short-term memory. Sometimes when you take a look at the web page, you will have 1,000 items in that web page, blinking everywhere. And users cannot really remember all the items that are displayed on the web page. So that is like overloading the information for the user. That's why I like the Google's web page very much. In the morning you come and you open Google, it's plain white screen with just one place wherein you're going to search, nothing else. So that limited short-term memory of the user should be considered when you're designing your web pages. People make mistakes. Again, this is another thing. When somebody enters data, you'll make a mistake. When somebody has to do something with the system, you'll make a mistake. Intentionally or non-intentionally, unintentionally, they will make mistakes. So you have to see to that your system doesn't crash for those mistakes. The system should respond correctly for those mistakes. People are different. Another very interesting thing. People with wide range of capabilities. Some people are very good in typing. Some people are very good in speaking. Right? Speaking of the commands. And we also have differently able people who will not be able to speak or type. So in that case, you have to think about providing voice-based interface for them, or they should be able to hear the commands. So when you go to the lift, you will also see a visual display and also voice-based. You can hear the command, right? Fifth floor, and then your door opens. Door closing. Sometimes you also hear door closing. So when people are not, you have to understand your people. That's why for different kinds of people with different needs, you have to design your system. People have different interaction preferences. As I told you, some might be very happy video-based interface, text-based interface, or an image-based interface, or a VR interface. What they want, that you have to understand. So these human factors will decide the success of your application to a certain extent. So we have set of UI design guidelines proposed by so many researchers throughout the years. I just give you some of the guidelines here. Strive for consistency. What is this? When you take a look at our VTOP University Management website, there will be a consistency throughout the pages. All the pages will have the same color, same font size, same kind of fonts. If I want to navigate from one page to one page, there will be the buttons, it will be in a consistent place in all the pages. Cater to universal ability. What is this? Say, whenever you see a question mark on an application, what does that mean? It means help, right? You click on this, you will be going to help. That is universal. If I do Control X, Control S, Control V, and you are building an application for mostly Windows-based users, you know that they are very much used to all these functions. So you work on any application, they will provide you copy, cut, paste, save. It will have the same universal functions. So universal usability should also be there. Okay. Offer informative feedback. If I don't enter my password, I will say, please enter your password. If I don't enter my CAPTCHA, I will say, CAPTCHA is empty or something like that. So informative feedback should be there. What students do, they bring a form, when I click enter, invalid data. That is not informative feedback. What is informative feedback? Where the error has happened and why the error has happened and what the user should do to correct that error. Provide online help. Any good system should provide an online help, online guidance on how to use that system. Design task flows to yield closure. What does that mean? Say if I want to post your attendance, I'll go to the attendance menu, from there to the roster, from there select the semester, from there post attendance, from there I can select the options for posting, then I'll post, I'll complete. So when I start the task, I can go and very well in a smooth fashion finish the task. No need for me to come out, jump out for finishing the task, go to another path. So design task flows to yield closure. Sometimes, I may go in for an help menu, I may be searching how to do things, but from that help, I should be able to traverse back to my current activity. So that is what is saying, that is what is the meaning of design task flows to yield closure. This is another problem with students' projects. I submit data, immediately I'll go to another screen. From there, there will be no interface to any other screens on this globe. It's like a blank screen, your balance is 10,000. Now what should I do? Like, should I go back or should I come for it or should I log out? Nothing, it's a blank screen. And then what you will do, you will use your browser's history button, then go back. That is really bad. So all the navigational capabilities should be present inside your application. Very important. Permit easy reversal of actions. So Control Z, the reversal of actions is not only Control Z. Say you fill a form, you want to reset, definitely you have to provide ways to easily reverse the actions. Sometimes I send a mail, I want to reverse my action. I want to undo. There is a way we can even retrieve the mails back, but before the user reads. In WhatsApp also, I think you can send a message, but even before the user reads, you can retrieve that message back. So such kind of reversal of actions is very important. Prevent errors, yeah. While he enters the data itself, we can prevent the errors then and there. Check if the name is null, you give a message, prevent the error. Make users feel they are in control. Don't give them lot of technical error messages, make their life miserable. Minimize short-term memory load. Don't put all the things in one page and overload them. So these are the design guidelines proposed by various researchers throughout the century. So in 1920, they started all these things and they are proposing all these things. And we'll take a look at some of the examples for these things. Strive for consistency. What does that mean? Let us take this web page. I mean, it's not a web page, it's an interface box wherein I am going to click on next and back to go to the next page. So when I click on next, what happens? I go to page 2. When I click on next, I go to page 3. When I click on next, I go to page 4. When I click on next, I go to page 5. When I click on next, I go to page 4. Actually, when I click on next, I should go to page 6. I'm going to page 4 because of one small thing. That is, in all the other pages, back button is here, next button is here. Whereas in this page alone, back button is here, next button is here. There is no technical fault in the application except for a we cannot even say it was misplaced, it was placed there. So what users do is by their experience they learn. I keep on clicking things here, I expect that to be there in the next page. So when you just misplace it, you'll wonder why I want to go to the next page, it's in page 4, immediately call the technical support, create a lot of problems. So that is striving for consistency. If I want to log out, where you will search for the logout thing, you will see the icon always to the right on the corner, you go for log. You hide it somewhere at the bottom and then say you log out there. It's not going to work. So this is what I expect in your applications too. Same font size, same kind of color patterns, same kind of icons used. Offer informative feedback. I have taken that from VTalk. I was inspired by VTalk. What is this informative feedback? I can post attendance to students using the attendance management system. I didn't select the date, but then I tried to preview it. This is what the message I got. Select slot details. It says where exactly the issue is. So I went and selected the slot details. I didn't give you registration numbers. Then I went in for a preview. Now it very well tells me enter the registration numbers. So step by step, if I make an issue, this is the issue. You should be very particular about that issue. If your password is wrong, password mismatch issue. If your username is wrong, username does not exist in the system. If the captcha is invalid, captcha is invalid. You cannot say data is invalid. Because they keep on clicking it, account gets locked. And we'll also take a look at, when you're going in for designing this icons, you may also use images in your software. Obviously, you cannot copy images from other software and use it. You have to design your own logos, own icons. So in that case, we will be talking about this particular principle called Gestalt principle, which is a very old principle, and it talks about, we'll talk about two properties of Gestalt, that is closure and symmetry. What closure says is, we don't see things as independent objects, we see them as a closure, as whole. So you take a look at this particular object, what you see here, you are seeing here two triangles, and then you have other things here. But what I really wanted to represent here is, I just wanted three triangles, and then three shapes like this. This triangle is not even existing. It's an empty space. But then since I am putting objects in a certain pattern, it gives me another meaning. So why we have to understand this is, when you're going in for designing logos, icons, or your own images, when you put things together, you may want to say something else, but then the meaning may be something else. So closure, what is the human perception is, I will see things together. I will see this entire thing together and not as three independent objects. So this is what Gestalt principles in closure they tell you about. I'll give you one more example for Gestalt principles, symmetry. We tend to see simple figures rather than complex ones. So what is that you see here on the board? How can you describe this? Two squares, right? So you're seeing something like this, one square, and then you have another square overlapped on that. But then what is that you wanted to convey was something like this. Yeah, this may not sound why I'm saying this is, when you're putting in complex shapes together, you should always see to that you don't convey a different meaning. So that's what Gestalt principle is all about. I don't know whether this is visible. I have just put some 5 to 6 circles there with some odd coloring, but then finally it gives me a cube shape that is projected to the user. Maybe my intention was not providing a cube to the user, but then just showing a symbol of 5 or 6 circles. So this kind of a thing also you should take into account when you're designing your user interfaces. Next thing is, we seek and use visual structure. Structured information is easier to perceive. For instance, regarding flight booking, I give information like this on the web page. How difficult it is. Whereas when you take a look at this, regarding the same booking info, I give when is departing, when is he arriving, what is the flight. So structured information is very easy for us. So I want to just know the departure. I can very well focus on this particular thing. So don't dump information, copy paste it like that in your web pages. Yeah. You are looking at certain things on the board. How many things can you remember, recollect? This is like an exercise for understanding the user's short-term memory. Say when you put a web page with 100 items, the user is not going to be really worried about all your 100 items. If you be just looking at 1 or 2 items, he can remember only 3 or 4 items. So what short-term memory says is at a max you can remember 7 items in a particular given time. So there is no point in overloading your web pages with lot of items here and there because you will lose interest searching for the items in the web page. So that's why we should never overload users with information. Minimize the information, segregate it in as far as possible. Visual hierarchy. Here even when you give information like this, it's very difficult. People don't like reading text. Please understand that. They don't like reading text. It's like you have to give them what they need. Say, I may be interested only in functional requirements. I'm not interested in the other requirements. Why should I even go through this and read? But if I provide this, I can very well visually analyze and understand. These things come under user interface design. Color displays. Students who are new, they get really attracted to colors in web page designing. When I go to internet web programming classes, this moment we teach them some color attributes, it will be red, green, blue, all colors in one screen. Bright colors, and there will be a scrolling to happening. This outdated scrolling display, right? So why we should use colors? Colors should be used very minimum. Colors should be used to highlight exceptional events. Common mistakes in the use of color interface design include use of color to communicate meaning. You cannot use a color to communicate meaning. The overuse of color in the display. Because people are using your systems for many hours, they may go blind using your system. So color guidelines. How are you going to use colors? Limit the number of colors used. Use it very wisely. Do not just like that put your entire page in some orange and red colors. Don't do that. Use color to show a change in system status. Use color coding to support the task that the users are trying to perform. Say if the password is correct, what color code you will use? Green. The password is wrong, what is the color code? Red. These are universal standards, right? So you cannot say red and say your password is success. So don't do that. Be careful about color pairings. So this is again another thing. For instance, if you have pale colors, I don't know whether you can see the difference between these two shades on the board. You want to just differentiate two types of items, you will use this color here and that color here. Two pale colors, and people may find it difficult to say that this is different from that. So you have to not use pale colors to actually differentiate two different sets of items. You cannot use that. Small color patches. What do you mean by small color patches? You have a small color patch here, but it's very difficult to say the difference between these two things because these patches are very small. You use similar colors, they may be confused, like what is this color, what is this color? Are they the same? So you have to go in for very good variations. Maybe you use a blue here, you use a red here, then the variation will be very good. But when you go in for similar colors in small patches, people may find it difficult. Maybe you ask them to select the different things using the colors. They may find it very difficult. Separated patches. This is again there. Say, when you take a look at this, these two patches, they are totally separate. Are they the same color? When the colors are separated and they are similar, you may think they are the same color, but then when they come together, they are totally two different colors. The advice is, if you are going to segregate information or make them do certain tasks using the color, don't use similar pale colors because they find it very difficult. People with eyesight issues, they cannot do that. Color blindness. How many of you have heard of this? The statistics are very old, but what it says is people with color blindness cannot differentiate between red and green. So you should never use graphs or charts, anything which is a combination of red and green, because for them there is no difference between red and green. So this also you should take care while you are designing your interfaces. Again, this how difficult this one is to identify. You have two similar colors and you come out with a graph. Hyperlink design. We are going to work with hyperlinks also a lot. See, again, when you talk about hyperlink designs, what will you do here in this? You will have visited links. Say if the user visits the link, the color will change, right? And you will also have the links that have not been visited. That will be in a different color. Why we should give those variations? Say I visit 3 of the links here, I should know which I have visited, which I have not visited. So once when a user visits a link, the color change should be there. Once the user has not, if the user has not visited a link, the color change, there should not be any color change. Again, when you talk about color changes here, we should not use pale similar colors for these changes, because it will be very difficult for them to identify what they have visited or not. So hyperlink color changes is a must in your design. Okay. What happens when a user clicks an event? Error messages. Obviously, every form is going to support some error message. How you are going to give an error message? Messages should be polite, concise, consistent, and constructive. As I told you, when somebody fills in the username and password, you should not say you are wrong. That is not polite. Data is invalid. That is not polite. Please leave the system. That is also not polite. You have to say username is incorrect. Please enter your correct username. You should tell him what is the error is, and you should also be very polite, and you should also be very concise. You should not write a big paragraph there saying, "Dear user, I know you very well, please." So these things, we may laugh at, but that's what students do when they come for the project. We'll see that in your projects too. Anyway. And background experience of the user should be determining factor for your design. Say this is another important thing. If your users are very naive, you give them very clear-cut messages. If your users are experienced programmers, they are looking for the exact error and why it happened, right? They will not be interested in any other things. So you go through these things, that is based on the experience, skill level, style and culture. They are also including the culture. When you are displaying an error message, the region also should be considered. In India, how should you display an error message? In US, how should you display an error message? Because people will get offended by your messages. This is one good example. Say a nurse misspells a patient's name in the system. This is like typo. A nurse types a patient's name, she misspells his name. So what should be the feedback to the nurse? You should not say like this, error 27, 404, 504, invalid patient ID. She may be really scared. Something is happening. So what you have to do is, see how they help her. Click on patients list for a list of patients. Click on retry to retry the input. Click on help for more information. Since this error has happened, what corrective action she should take to fix that error? Your system should guide the user to that. Somebody comes for applying a loan, you should guide him if he is not uploading a document or anything. Maybe he doesn't know what is Aadhaar card. You should give him the reference on what the document is, right? So such kind of guidance should be there with respect to errors. Our peripheral vision is very poor. What is peripheral vision? Right now I am looking at some people here. Some might be using their mobile phones, that's it. Because my vision is only focused on here. So when I turn this side, somebody might be doing something there. So why this is very important is, say I have designed this form and I have displayed an error message here. Where is the error message? What users do is they will be just looking at the submit button and that particular text box, because that's where their exact vision is. And you display one common mistake for the past 10 years I have been seeing with students. Where is the error message? On the top, on the corner, somewhere. You drag it and see. So that is where should be the error message. Again, is this correct? This is also not correct because you see here you have a background. Please enter the login details in red, and then you are displaying an error message in small fonts using the same color. So what happens is this will overtake. This will overtake that error message. People will be looking at it, they may not know where the error message is. So where should be the error message? And how will you display the error messages? These are the common things. You use icons. The color should be always red. And I have visited some of the sites of major players. I try to populate some wrong data. And you see where the error messages come in. I just try to enter my Apple ID. An icon pops up. Error message right beneath the box. And it's in red. Okay. So I expect all the error messages to be displayed right where the box is. Again, I tried this I did some 5 to 6 years back. Tried filling in some data. You see that there I get some feedback, and when error message happens, the box gets highlighted as red, and the message is coming just beneath the box. And you have to use red as a standard for all your error messages. So do not use pop-up box for error messages. Sometimes the users might disable their pop-ups in their systems and they may not get an error message. So pop-up windows are not allowed in your applications. Don't use audio, don't beat the users, don't confuse them. Don't flash briefly. Sometimes the error message comes, you are wrong, and then it just vanishes. What is wrong? I don't know. So these things are there. And we also have certain things on information presentation. I'll be very quick. You can write an entire paragraph, or else you can give him a chart, you can give him a graph. I asked performance of collectors from the some of the teams. How can you show the performance? Is it like going to be a big paragraph or a chart? Yeah. We have some more small concepts which we'll discuss in the next class, and then we'll wind up. Before that, you can think of charts. You can also think of displays like this when information is very critical. Rather than giving numbers, you can very well relatively compare and take a decision, right? Mostly when you talk about oil well, gas and pressure monitoring systems, they'll go with only displays like this so that the engineers can easily identify what is wrong. That's it. So